Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A wise man said, "It has been the ruin of many worthy families, the loss of many a man's honor, and the cause of suicide." To all those who enter the lists, it is equally fascinating. The successful gamester pushes his good fortune till it is overtaken by a reverse. The losing gamester, in hopes of retrieving past misfortunes, goes on from bad to worse, till grown desperate, he pushes at everything and loses his all. In a word, few gain by this abominable practice, the profit, if any, being diffused while thousands are injured. Those are the words of George Washington, speaking on gaming and its impact on society. A man who I think we all respect. Today, there are 15 million people who are gambling addicts. And today, we are going to make it easier for people to become addicted to gaming. Today, part of this bill, it's to legalize credit card gambling and iGaming, and I've spoken on that issue before. But today, this bill goes even one step further. This now legalizes it in casinos. What you've heard me speak about before, about credit card gambling. Now we have this creative legislative runaround that now authorizes casinos to issue prepaid cards that can be purchased, you guessed it, with credit cards. We are now going to allow casinos to offer a way for people to use their credit cards right in their facilities to gamble on credit. This initiative, as I've spoken about too many times on this House floor and too many times in our caucus, I'm sure you're sick of hearing me speak about. But today, this goes even one step further than my fears of that I spoke of before. I've spoken about the effect of cash advances on people, something I used to do when I worked in my job working for Mohegan Sun. It's a 939-page bill we're talking about today. And yes, there's several things in here which I think are positive. But there is no doubt this is the overriding issue that's in this bill. One, once we let the toothpaste out of the tube, we can't put it back in. I've heard people speak about VGTs here today who think that this is a step in the right direction for VGTs. I think it kills the conversation on VGTs in our bars and taverns. So for members who are concerned about that, I don't understand your reasoning. For people who care about property taxes, the home foreclosures that we look at with gambling is overwhelming. But most of all, one of the largest conversation has to be about suicide. I did a quick search and went on to 1-800-GAMBLER. I'm going to quote, "A University of California, San Diego sociologist found that visitors to and residents of gaming communities experience significantly elevated suicide levels." That's right. Areas that have casinos, gaming communities have higher rates of suicide. I'll continue. According to Dr. David Phillips, Las Vegas displays the highest levels of suicide in the nation, both for residents of Las Vegas and for visitors to that setting. In Atlantic City, New Jersey, Phillips found that abnormally high suicide levels for visitors and residents appeared only after gambling casinos were opened. Nevada, as I mentioned before, had the highest suicide rate in the nation from 1990 to 1994, according to the statistics as well from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. In Gulfport, Mississippi, suicide increased by 213%. 213% suicide increase. From 24% to 75, from 24 to 75 in the first 2 years after casinos arrived. In neighboring Biloxi, suicide attempts were raised by 1,000%. 1,000% in the first year alone. In 1 year. The National Council of Problem Gambling, citing various studies, reports that 1 in 5 pathological gamblers attempt suicide, a rate higher than for any other addictive disorder. You heard that correct. As we've been here talking about the opioid epidemic all across Pennsylvania, we've been talking about that substantially. Gambler attempts suicide is a rate higher than any other addictive disorder. At least 140 clients at Minnesota's 6 gambling addiction treatment centers have attempted suicide, according to the Minneapolis Star-Tribune. The paper confirmed 6 gambling-related suicides in that state, but noted that the 6 are almost certainly a fraction of the total number, given that authorities often do not ascertain motive in suicide cases. A survey of nearly 200 Gamblers Anonymous members in Illinois found that 66% had contemplated suicide. 79% had wanted to die. 45% had a definite plan to kill themselves, and 16% had actually attempted suicide. As I've spoken before on this floor, this is one of the worst addictions there are in our community. This is not just an addiction where you go to a treatment center and get clean.
Representative, please suspend. I know you've been talking about the addiction issue, and I just want to have members please take their seats. We do have other speakers. If members could please take their seats. Representative Kaufer will be followed by Representative Roy, Representative Charlton, Representative Mosser, and Representative Grove. We want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to speak. Representative Kaufer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I was saying, this is not just an addiction you go and get treatment for, and you go back to your normal life, but it's about all the money you actually owe already. Gamblers who go into treatment often have to hit rock bottom in order to see their problem. I've seen it too much in my personal life, in my professional life, both former and current. I think I'm the only member here that comes from a gaming background. My best friend testified in front of our Gaming Oversight Committee about gambling addiction. My brother's partner suffered from gambling addiction. Let alone the people who have left casinos and then committed suicide in the parking lot. I've seen it. People that have been denied a cash advance, well, they'll come and ask for $5,000, then ask for $4,000, then $3,000, $2,000, $1,000, all the way down until they get to $10, begging for $10. Begging. I've seen it too much. And if I were to challenge members in here, I bet you they know somebody too that has suffered from gambling addiction. Somebody that's lost their home or their business, their family, their house, their car. Maybe even somebody who committed suicide. I have. I'm sure there's others who have as well. I'm disappointed that we're taking a vote on this today. Our House Republicans have led on this gaming issue since it came up. Chairman Payne and now Chairman Petrie have been leaders on this issue. Yet the bill that came back was not consulted with him or with members of our Gaming Oversight Committee. We're being asked here to rubber stamp a Senate bill that has not engaged to the depth that the House has. And I should say it has been the House in general, not just the House Republicans, but the House Democrats have well engaged in this issue. I will come back to just a few words from our founder, President George Washington. The losing gamester, in hopes of retrieving past misfortunes, goes on from bad to worse, till grown desperate, he pushes at everything and loses his all. In a word, few gain by this abominable practice, the profit, if any, being diffused, while thousands are injured. We are sacrificing short-term gain with a long-term loss and effect that will affect our Commonwealth for generations. If we think today that by legalizing credit card gambling, that we are going to fix the woes of this state, I am sad to say you are mistaken. The impact that this vote will have, if passed, will go on for generations. And I've heard people here say we should allow people to do what they want. Well, things like that happened during our housing bubble. We have a student loan debt issue. If we don't think that this credit card issue is going to bubble up and burst, it is going to affect us all. It's going to affect our budget. It's going to affect our Commonwealth. It's going to affect our property taxes as homes are foreclosed upon. It's going to affect people's lives. Mr. Speaker, I cannot implore my colleagues more to vote against this bill. I wish this provision were not in this bill. I'm sad that we are taking a vote on this of something that will move our Commonwealth in such a negative direction today. Please, colleagues, vote no.